Okay, so before I forget, looks like we have Hisham is here. Hisham, you're here now, right? Okay, just want to make sure I give you credit for being here. Okay, so I'm going to make comments on Group H, but the same comments are valid for everyone in here. It's just slightly different details, but the same general gist of things. So, and by the way, Group H, you're the only one I don't have a team contract from yet. Make sure to send it to me as soon as you can, okay? Okay, so the first thing that I always look at is, or that I always recommend everybody in here look at, is where do you stack up against the other teams in the game? Okay, so if we go down to Globus Statistical Review, and actually, no, I take that back. We go down to Competitive Intelligence Reports, and you go to Quarterly Snapshot. Click on that and look at where you are. So you guys are Group H. You have a 3-star camera, okay, in entry level. So if you look at all the rest of the teams, you're actually at the high end of entry level, and you're competing with teams A and B in particular, okay? And then for multi-featured, you're a 2.5-star camera, which actually puts you right in the middle of the pack, okay, for that segment. And they're two different segments. They don't overlap with each other. So first of all, let's take a look. You're at, well, I see right now why you're in last place. You have, like, arguably the highest quality camera in the game, and you're selling at the lowest price in the game. So if we go back and look at your, I bet you're actually selling below your cost of production. Yep. Oh, hang on. Yeah, if we scroll down here, that's what I need to do. If we scroll down, your cost per unit is 137 bucks. You're selling for 100, so you're losing 37 bucks on every camera you sell. It's not a surprise that you're in last because you're losing money, but that's okay. That's what the practice is for. So that's the first thing, and like I said, you're gonna and this advice goes for everybody. Look at what the prices are of the other teams. So if we go back to the Competitive Intelligence Report again, you're at a 3-star. The other 3-star cameras are 256 bucks. So Team A, actually, I think you're priced way out of the market. Where is Team A? Yes, you guys. Yeah. What place were you in? Yeah. So you're way too high on your price. It's hard for you to know that, but very rarely does the entry level camera. Hang on one second, I'll get to you. Very rarely does the entry-level camera go for too much above 200 bucks. But there's no way you can know that. So your price is too high. But yeah, no. There's no way you can know to start out with. Yes, what was your question?
That's what I was going to ask. Do you see other people's changes in real time, like other teams? So you don't know until the final. Okay. You just see the end of it, right?
Yes, that is correct. So you see the previous. Now, I can see everyone's changes. So theoretically, I mean, this is sort of like reality. There is insider information available. I know the information, and if a team is doing really poorly and you really need some help and you want to call or email me, on the weekend or on Friday, because the closer it gets to the deadline, the more decisions are going to be in and saved. I'm not averse to that. Like I don't want to give everybody that information all the time, but the point here is that you learn. And if your team is not doing well, then it's kind of demoralizing and you're not learning. So I'm happy to help the teams that are having a tough time. But no, actually, that's competitively secret information. Theoretically, I know it, but the rest of you don't. Does that answer your question? Okay. So moving on for tips for Group H. So if you look here, they're at 100, way too low. 160 for Team B. 256 for Team A. Now let's look at where the 2.5-star cameras are, because we don't want to go like lower than that. So 2.5 is at 159, 160, 160, 190. Group F is probably too high there. And then 160, 160. So it looks like everybody, I think 160 was the default too, so it looks like several teams didn't change their price on entry level. So if you're going to stay with a 3-star quality camera, you're going to probably want to be 170 or 180 bucks, okay? Because that's a good 10 or 20 bucks higher than what the 2.5-star cameras are, but it's still below 200. You might even be able to go up to 190. But I wouldn't go above 200. So that's the first thing that I look at is, where is your star rating, and how do you compare in terms of price with the other teams? Immediately after that, I look at advertising too. So you theoretically don't have to spend as much on advertising because you're one of the higher quality cameras in entry level. So if you look here, you're spending 300, 150, so Group F is even lower, but we want to see what are A and B spending. 600 and 300, you're in the ballpark, I always believe that I think a good number for advertising spending is in the thousands. So actually, compared to what I see in other iterations of this game, I think everybody in here has probably spent too little on advertising. But you guys don't need to spend that much, so I might bring it up to 400 or 500, but it looks like your advertising's in line with your competition, more or less, at least for entry level. So now, if we look next at tech support, you're going to want to be kind of in the middle on tech support, and actually now that I go into it, 2.5 is also in the middle. So you're going to want to be a little on the low side of middle for advertising, and right in the middle on tech support because, or a little on the high side of the middle on tech support because, how do I get this? Don't show me this message again. Thank you. So you'll notice here, your tech support and advertising numbers, and please, everybody, even if you're not Group H, I would give the same advice to any team in here. It's just the details are slightly different. But the details of what I'm saying are the same. It's just, Group A might have like a higher price. Group C, you might actually have some issues with labor instead of something else. But everything I'm going through an inventory of everything for Group H. And everybody in here is going to have some of these problems, but not others. So you'll notice here, tech support and advertising, those are overall investments. They're not investments in just those are decisions for the entire world. They're made out of Taiwan. They're not decisions that are different for each market. And they're not decisions, they're decisions that are different for each geographic market. They're not different for entry level versus multi-featured. Okay? So when you're looking at your tech support, basically, if you have a lower quality camera, you want your tech support to be higher. Basically, the lower the quality of the camera, the more people are going to complain, the more they're going to have customer service requests, the more they're going to send the phone back and want their money back for the warranty if you don't have good tech support. If you have high tech support and a low quality camera, you can keep people keeping the camera because you're helping them out on the phone when they have problems. Advertising-wise, if you have basic advertising is kind of a bell curve. So if you are in the middle of the pack with your quality of camera, you're going to want to have the highest advertising possible to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack. If you have a really high quality camera or a really low quality camera, you can spend a little less on advertising because the price or the quality speak for themselves. However, if you remember what I said about Group H, they're actually on the high side of entry-level quality with a 3-star, but they're in the middle of multi-featured quality. And the advertising investment is for both markets. So if you average that, you're going to want to be a little bit on the low side of average for your advertising costs, and a little bit on the high side of, and also a little bit on the low side in terms of tech support, because you've got a high quality camera. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so based on that, if we look, the highest tech support number is 365, the lowest is 60, you're at 250, so based on the current competition information, I'd drop your tech support number to more like 150 instead of 250. That's kind of the low end of average. You can actually see the average right here in the pink column. I've gotten so accustomed to doing this and looking at what the other competitive teams are doing, I tend to just ballpark the average in my head, but you can actually see the average in this pink column here. And you can see in each of the categories how you compare to the industry average. It'll give you the report for your company here. So I would do that, and then advertising, I think you're okay, you know. Honestly, I might bump it up to 350 or 4, but no higher than that. You might be a little bit low, but not much. So after making those changes, then I would go and look at the promotions. And again, compare those to what teams A and B are doing in entry level. So A has got no promotions for 0 weeks, $0. Group B's got 1 for 1 week at 10%. You've got 2 for 2 weeks at 13%, which is great. Honestly, you see this yellow here? This yellow means that you sold out of all your cameras. It's not that people don't want your camera. You're selling it at a loss. That's the problem. And when you put a 13% discount on for 2 weeks, and you do it twice every quarter, that's 1/3 of every business quarter that you're actually selling at more like 180, more like 87, because you're taking 13% off. So that's good, but you're too low on your price right now. So when it comes to promotions, I would recommend to everyone, match whatever your competitors are doing in the same star class, match what they're doing, and then be better in just one area. So if they have, I think Group B got it closest to correct here. They're in the middle of the three-star teams. So I would do maybe 1 week 10%, and then 2 instead of 1, or 1 week 1 number and maybe 11 or 12%. You're going to try and be better on one area, but otherwise you basically just want to make sure that you're close to your competition when it comes to promotions. Make sense to everybody? Questions questions that have come up as I've said this before I keep going? Okay. Yes.
So on the regions, is there a mechanic for market research on there? Because on, for example, the tech support one, you can do it different by region, but I've never done a study, and I don't think most people have, on the differences in technological needs in Asia Pacific versus Latin America. So I don't know. For all I know, Americans break technology more, but they also spend more. So are they going to care more for long warranty than someone in Latin America who is potentially more or less careful and more or less demanding on a warranty? How do we know which places are...
Christian, right?
Yes.
Christian, in the real world, that's a good question. In this game, I think you're overthinking it. I don't think that the game is just an algorithm, and I don't believe that the creators of the game actually programmed in that level of detail into the geographic markets. And so they may have, but if they did, there's no way to run a report on it. But knowing what I know about the game, I think that's actually beyond the level of detail they programmed. But yes, in reality, if that were the case in the real world, then you basically everything is sort of indexed to the country average. So if the country average in general requires more tech support, then you're still going to want to make the same decisions that I said about higher versus lower depending on your product quality. But maybe in a country which is very demanding of tech support, everybody's at 500 to start with as an average instead of 250, I would say in reality that's what would happen, but in this game I don't think it actually goes to that level of detail. Okay? Other questions before I keep going? Okay, so after you've checked that, I would also check your warranty period. So Group H is at 1 year, and again, compare it not to everybody, but compare it to the other 3-star cameras. They're at 90 days. So you're offering, honestly, no wonder everybody likes your camera, because you're offering a better warranty, you're offering a better promotion, and you're offering a really cheap price. The problem is you're not making any money. That's why you're in last place. The customers love you, but your investors hate you because you're losing money. Warranty-wise, again, you're going to want to be close to what your competitors are. If you have a higher warranty than your competitors, you'll sell more cameras. However, the year or 2 years after that, depending on whether it's like 2-year or 3-year warranty, you're going to have more camera return costs because of the higher warranty. So, in general, my advice on warranty is that kind of like promotions, you make sure that you are the same as your competitors that have the same star rating. And then if you're looking for just one area to be better than people on, that's one area you could do. But you don't want to be better on every single promotion and warranty category. You want to just be better on one and the same on everything else. Otherwise, it's going to cost you too much money. Got it? Okay, so price, then number of models. You also want to be in the ballpark of your competition. Basically, less models means that your production costs are cheaper because your production costs are cheaper because you don't have to have as many different settings in the factory. You can have like less machinery. It's just simpler in the factory. So that makes your production more efficient. However, customers like to have more models. So it's kind of increases your demand to have more models. Similar to the rest of the promotional items here, make sure that you're similar to your competitors in all but one of these areas: number of models, warranty period, promotions, and promotion number, length, and discount. Make sure that you're very close in all but one of those. And make sure your price is also in the ballpark of your competition. Yes?
But won't they also change it and then it's not necessarily going to matter?
They will, but they're not going to change it that far. First of all, let me address that a little bit. You don't know what people are going to change. Honestly, like a strategy we haven't even gotten to yet, sometimes when you're just totally screwed, you have to like hit the blow up and reset button, and you totally change the position of your product. So you go from being a high-end camera to a low-end camera, or from middle of the pack to high, or middle of the pack to low. Usually, if you've got the right camera and you're comfortable in that niche, you stay in that niche and keep getting better. If you're doing really poorly as a team, like one of the ways to fix that and get out of a rut is to radically change the product that you're selling. So I guess like anybody can do whatever they want each week. I would say that if you see teams that are in your PQ area and they suck, they may not be in your PQ area next week or the week after because they may want to change to a new setup. But if they're doing well, it would not be in their best interest to change. And the average pricing, the average way that promotions are, like in 3-star cameras, is going to be similar even if there's new companies that come into that market and other ones that leave. Does that make sense? So, yeah, it's not going to be quite the same, but it's still going to be close. Does that make sense? And then to answer that question further, and hang on. Group B, right? Melissa. Damn it! Sandra. Oh, wait, no, I'm looking up instead of down. Okay. Candace, you look like yourself, too. I was actually... Okay, so these 4 pictures here... Candace, I'm sorry. These 4 pictures here are Group B. I was looking at these 4. So I was actually looking at, like, your table and the table behind, basically, and I'm sorry. Okay. So Candace, another better, even like more detailed answer for you. If you go up to the decision entries again, and you go down to marketing, and this again, I hope everyone is paying attention. And if you didn't or you missed something, I'm recording, so this is a particularly valuable webinar that I'm doing right now. Even though you probably some of the time will just see like half of my head on the video because I'm leaning back and like being comfortable. Okay, you'll notice here on the left-hand side, click here to improve accuracy of predictions. This allows you to estimate the direction you think the market's going to go in. So if I'm sitting here giving people advice about prices being too low or prices being too high, or the fact that the price for a lot of people didn't even change the price of their camera, they just left it at 160 because I think that was the default price before the game started, or when you guys took over. So each week, based on being competitive, what I said in class, prices are either going to go up or down on average in the marketplace. I'll tell you now that price tends to go down over the course of the game, although sometimes it can have a spike, depending on what advice I gave in class and just anomalies of teams that may have been too low and overcompensated. But in general, as the game goes on and on, people get more and more cutthroat competitive on price. So price tends to go down over the course of the game. So in general, you're going to want to move these levers up to estimate that price is going to be lower by a certain amount next year than it is this year. Make sense? And same thing for PQ rating, and the same thing for all of the other marketing variables. So in general, I would say to everybody in here that price tends to go down, PQ rating tends to go up, and marketing tends to get more competitive over the course of time. However, you can watch. You can't really see it very well right now, but if you go into the competitive intelligence reports again, you can see, you hear up at the top, I've just been using the North America Quarter 4, Year 6 report to give advice right now. And the Quarter 4 report is the most accurate one to use. Like, if you really want to get detailed, you can break down your strategy by quarter. That's a lot of work. Usually, if you just look at Quarter 4, you're not in bad shape. You are going to want to look at the differences in the 4 geographic markets, though. But you can see here, year 6, we can go back to year 5, average price 160, and then year 6, average price 163. So actually, when everybody took over, on average, price went up just slightly. It'll probably go down over the course of the game, but you can actually watch the trend. You can go back to the prior weeks and see where's it going, and you can make your own predictions. But I highly, highly, highly recommend to everyone in here, change those toggles for improving the accuracy of the predictions. If you notice here, so I haven't changed anything about Team 1's decisions yet, but if I go in and, like, if I just leave everything the same, you'll notice right now they're supposed to have minus $6.61 in earnings per share. If I go in and say that price is going to be, quality rating is going to be more competitive, and it's going to be more competitive on price, and then I close that, see how it went up? Actually, yeah, sorry, I forgot to hit apply. So you'll notice in the kind of grayed out area on the left-hand side, see how it went up to 668 in losses now, 676 in losses, 674. Okay, so it actually stayed the same a little bit there. Now going up and then going down again. Entry level, basically, if everybody's price quality rating goes up, then they're coming into Group H's territory, which means that Group H is more competitive than they used to be. But you'll notice it changes the prediction numbers on the left-hand side here. So if you don't if you don't move these toggles, your predictions are going to look great, and then the next year you did really bad, and you're like, what happened? Well, it's because you didn't. It's because you expected nothing in the market to change. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everybody in here, not just Candace? Yeah. Okay, cool. So let me close that. So I can go back to the intelligence report again. So everything that I just looked at for entry level, after you've done that, you want to look at the exact same questions for multi-featured. So how does the price compare? Basically, 2.5 stars is the midpoint of the market. Once again, you're the lowest price in the game for entry level, or for multi-featured too. You'll see the average here is 385. You have pretty much an average camera for multi-featured. You're at 2.5 stars, right in the middle. So you want to be at 385 at that average market price, not at the low end. And same thing for promotions, warranty, and so forth. Look at what the other 2.5 star camera companies are doing and match them, except for 1 or 2 areas. And in 1 and 2 areas is what you pick to be competitive on. Does that all make sense? Yes. Okay. So next, I'm going to actually go in and look at some of the details here and make some changes so you can see what happens when I make some changes in the decisions to the predictions for Company H here. So Company H, I'm just going to leave, right now, I'm going to leave everything the way it is for your product, okay? In general, I would suggest leaving your product the same unless when you try everything else, nothing works, okay? If you start changing your product around, everything else that you used to know about your strategy is going to go out the window. And that's okay if you're really in trouble and you can't fix anything, because sometimes you're just stuck in a bad niche in the market and you got to break out and start over. But if you're doing okay and you're able to sort of incrementally improve, in general, you don't want to make too many changes. You may change a little bit here. In general, you want to have the lowest cost possible and still be the same price quality rating. So if you notice, if I go in here and take camera controls down to 7 and ergonomics down to 7 and accessories down to 7. Okay, that was too much. So accessories will leave back up at 10 or 11. Yeah, so if I move that down, you see here, I cut about $10 off the cost of the camera, but I'm still a 3-star camera. So the only thing I would recommend is that you play around each week, change your features a little bit, change one thing, and see if you can keep bringing down your cost a little bit to be the lowest possible in that star rating. Alternately, you could raise your costs, but then you got to make sure to raise your price too and be at the high end of prices in that segment. Okay? Everybody understand? Yes. Okay. So otherwise, I wouldn't change a lot of things about your costs here. I would recommend, honestly, my recommendation would be that everyone spend at least $10 million on R&D. You'll be glad you did later in the game. Once your team is doing really well, you can start cranking back a little bit on the R&D money. But R&D makes your cameras better quality. It makes your production more efficient. It makes your employees more productive. The R&D makes a huge difference, but it only makes a difference like the next year or the year after. Okay, so you're not going to see the difference. You're going to invest more in R&D, and it's going to take your profit down in the year that you're looking at, but it's going to help you in the future. So I would recommend increasing R&D here, but let me make some other changes and show you what starts happening. So one nice thing that happened, because you guys were selling at such a cheap price and everybody wanted your camera, like you're the most popular game in town now. You'll notice here, retail dealers, the number that you had, the number that you shipped to last year is here in white, and the number that are ordering or want to order your cameras this year is in green to the right-hand side. So you'll notice there's 17 more multi-store chains, 96 more online retailers, or there's 56 more online retailers, et cetera, et cetera. You can really increase the number of stores you're selling in because you had a camera that was really cheap and everybody wants to sell it. So, and even if you raise your price, the orders are based on what you did last year. So even though your price was too low, you can take advantage of it this year and kind of use it as a springboard. I mean, it won't matter because we're going to reset the game. But if this were a real round, you can take that advantage of that. Yes, Candace.
Are there any negative effects to maxing out in retail?
No. Theoretically, it should be possible to do like a Cabbage Patch Kids strategy, or in some ways an Apple strategy, where you artificially limit the supply and raise the price. I have yet to see a team be successful with that, but it is possible. So I'm not saying it's not possible. I haven't seen it done successfully yet. Usually you want to max it out. Okay? Okay, so let me show you here. First of all, before I do that, because it's not going to have any effect until I change production as well, take a look at entry-level assembly here. Well, first of all, based on you already have tremendously high number of orders based on what your price is, because everybody wants your basically free camera. But look here, right now it's 137,000 that are in demand in Q1 in North America. Now, if I go back and I actually max out the retailers in North America, and then I go back here, what was it before? The demand? Yeah, it's even higher now. So, it went from 135 to 172. So, when you increase your retailers, it increases the number of, the amount of cameras that you need to produce. But then, you need to go in and actually, see, right now, you're just making more cameras. You're dealing with more retailers, but you're not making any more cameras. So your costs actually went up even worse. But once we match assembly to orders, watch what happens to the predictions. Well, part of the problem is that the price is still wrong. So we need to change your camera price to like 190. Oh, look, well, you were really low in Asia Pacific. I would actually go with 190 in all 4 markets for now. We can leave it at 200 in Latin America for the time being. So now, a lot less demand, 37 because your price is higher. But since you were losing money before, you were losing 6. Now you're only losing 3 because you actually changed your your price. Okay, so the point here, the moral of the story is every change that you make in the marketing screen has ripple effects in every screen that comes after it. Every change you make in the product screen has ripple effects in marketing too, and it has ripple effects all the way rest of the way down the game. So you want to max out these numbers here. Like I said, I think your tech support is okay. I think your advertising is okay. I think your promotions were too high a little bit, so I'd bring them down to 1 for 1 week and maybe still be at 13%. I think your warranty is attractive right now. It's higher than the other teams, so that's a good thing. I'd leave it at 1 year across the way, and I'd change your promotions across the way as well. So because I changed the promotions, once again, all these numbers here changed as well. So we got to go back and recalculate the production numbers. Eventually, you're going to want to do the same thing for multi-featured, raise the price up to about $380. And yes, Anish, sorry.
Is it natural to be like have a credit rating lower in the beginning and like have like really low like earnings per share in the beginning? Or?
No.
No.
No. It just means that like you got unlucky with the decisions you made.
Oh, okay.
You should. I mean, it's not necessarily the best thing in the world to have an A or an A plus credit rating. A minus or B plus is fine because sometimes that means you're making more profit. You just you're using a lot of debt financing to do it. So it doesn't necessarily. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world to have a B plus or an A minus credit rating. But losing or not hitting your goals for earnings per share and so forth is just because the decision entries weren't the right combination.
Okay, so you should be hitting your investor expectation every week.
Yes. Okay, so if I change multi-featured then as well, we've got an increase in demand in multi-featured. So notice now that I'm like selling at a better price at multi-featured and I changed the warranties a little bit, the demand has gone up and now I'm producing more cameras and I've gone down all the way from losing $6 per share to only losing $1.47 a share. Big improvement. So we're still losing money though. Yes. Yeah, I'm getting there. Jose, right? Yeah. So yeah, let me go on down to the labor screen. I'll come back to some other stuff later because I think basically if you're still in the negative by the time you get done maxing out your assembly, you should probably go back and try and see what else in your marketing you haven't fixed yet. Or go back and see if there's anything else about product design that you might want to tweak a little bit to lower your costs. By the time you get to the end of assembly, you don't want to be negative anymore. You don't want to really be below investor expectations. You can get even better by maxing out what's going on with your labor and what's going on with your social responsibility and your financing. But if you're bad, by the time you get to labor, labor and financing and social responsibility are not going to like cure it. Does that make sense? So the only reason I hadn't gone on yet because they're still negative. But in the interest of teaching more, let me go on to the labor stream. So they're a little bit higher than the industry average for their salaries. So actually, but they're not too much higher. I'd actually leave your salaries about where they are. You might like move down a little bit on your benefits and maybe add a little bit more of a bonus just so the workers don't feel like they lost something and didn't get anything. Whenever you take away something from your workers, you want to put something back, even if you're actually like you're lowering your costs, but you want to like maybe if you're going to lower fringe benefits, at least make the quarterly bonus a little bit higher, or if you're going to lower your base wage increase, maybe throw a little bit extra into the fringe benefits. You want to have your costs go lower, but you don't want to have just something negative happen for the workers. You want to have it offset by something positive. So now that we got that, you'll notice well, first of all, $3,000 per PAT. Your workers are extremely well trained, Group H, but actually, I would never recommend going higher than about 1,000. So that also, you notice, like brought down another like 20 cents or so of your costs. So you're getting close to like breaking even now. Another problem is you have about 3 times, if you see here, PATs needed to achieve assembly schedule. You need 57 worker teams to achieve your production. You have 159 worker teams. So pretty much 2/3 of your work staff is sitting around twiddling their thumbs all day with nothing to do. But you're paying them a salary anyway. So unfortunately, you need to lay off about 100 workers. It's sad for them and their families, but you're not making any money. Yes? Hang on one second. Say again.
Because when you fire your workers, you have to pay them compensation, right?
Yes.
So, isn't that all profit?
Yes. Well, not really. Like basically, if you fire your workers, if you lay off workers, so if it's not just temps where you hired them one quarter and laid them off again the next, if you lay off permanent staff, you have to pay them 50% of their salary as severance. So you still saved, Armando, hang on one second. You still saved 50% of their salary, but the rest of the benefit you're only going to see the next year. Does that make sense? So you're not paying them like 150%. You're saving half the cost, but you're not getting the full benefit until the following year. Armando, yes. Uh-huh. Yes, for the ones that worked 3 quarters, as soon as they work more than 1 quarter, they're entitled to severance.
So would you not hire as many just
No, like right now, since Group H has so many extra workers, I'd lay off 150. That's interesting. Oh, sorry, 100, not 150. I'd lay off 100. And then quarter 3 is always like the holiday production. So you got to hire again here, but then right away, I'd lay them off. I would not keep them around. You're going to save money. You see, we're already down to 84 cents of losses now.
All right, so
Yes.
mine was like 20, 150. I only had 50 at a time. So I had to do 50, 50, 50. If that makes sense. How do you avoid hiring those people?
It all depends on Armando, it all depends on how much you grew. basically. After, yeah, hang on one second. I'll get to you. Armando, right? And also Armando. Okay. Armando 1, Armando 2. So, yeah, of course. If you grow too much, then you basically have to build another production facility. And whenever that happens, you can't hire past a certain number until the new facility is built. That's not a decision you guys control. It's an automatic thing that's triggered in the game. But after you grow by a certain amount, it won't let you hire any more for another year because you have to build a new plant. Make sense? Yes. Armando again.
We can do as well as fire just enough and then just make the other guys, if you're understaffed, make them work overtime, right? That would help you?
No, actually not. The overtime number here is not about, you're paying time and a half for overtime. So you don't want people working overtime if you can have them on regular salary. However, the reason this overtime number is here is because if you don't have people authorized to work overtime, then if your demand is higher than what you thought, then you have to have a third-party company do the rest of the assembly, and that costs double rather than time and a half. So this here is really just some things in business are not rocket science. It's just showing up and making sure you don't screw up or forget something. And this is one of those things. It's easy to forget to change these numbers because they go back to 0 each week. You want to make sure to, yep, whatever it says max, put them at that number. The only issue is, this game simulates a lot of things from real life, and the simulation here is you got to sign the authorization form for overtime. If you go home, if you're the CFO or the COO of the company and you go on vacation for a week before you sign those forms, ain't no other overtime that's going to happen before you get back. So sometimes it's just this is just simulating the fact that you need to dot every I and cross every T and not forget to authorize overtime. Make sense? Okay, so now we're doing well. We're already all the way down to 68 cents of losses. That's a lot better than $6. Corporate citizenship.
Is that what helps your image?
What's that? It does. It does indeed. However, if you spend too much, even though your image is great, you're losing money. So I would say, based on where you guys are at right now, well, you can leave that there. But let me see what happens. Yeah, it saved you about 12 cents a share or so. So I would actually drop your charitable contribution to 0, but bring up energy efficiency a little bit. That cost you a little, but it actually raised your image rating a point. So if you're going to take something away to save money on corporate citizenship, again, kind of like with the workers, give something back, but give back less than what you took. The rest of this I'd leave the way it is for now. And then finance and cash flow. So you are you're junk bond status, basically. C- credit rating. And then the reason for that is that you're maxed out on your loans and you have no cash. I mean, your company is basically illiquid. You're pretty much bankrupt. Huh? No, not buying. I would issue them. So in this case, buying shares is good if you have cash to do it with. Group H doesn't have any cash, so they actually need to do the reverse. They need to offer shares. So they've got 9,900 outstanding right now. I'd maybe offer 300. That still didn't really bring enough. Maybe issue 2,000. They're going to regret that a little bit later, but they need the cash right now. Yeah. So let's try paying down some debt now. And pay down another 10,000 here, or 10 million actually. Yeah, it still wasn't enough. So 3,000 shares. Really, like, honestly, unfortunately, the way things are right now, Group H may not be able to get themselves out of junk bond status this year. But because of the changes they made, next year they're going to have much better profit margin, and they can pay down some more of their loans. So they may not be able to do any better than what they're doing right now, because really you don't want your utilization on your debt to go much above 30%. If you're at 40 or 50% of your debt utilization, you can see here authorized line of credit is 100,000, and Group H is using 84. That's almost 90%. And before I paid it down, they were actually maxed out at 100,000 out of 100. Actually, 100 million out of 100 million for quarters 2, 3, and 4. That is definitely not where you want to be. You really don't even want to be above 40,000 if your credit limit is 100,000. Okay. And then eventually, you want to basically have your shares, your dividend offered being slightly higher than the projected earnings per share number. However, right now, you can't actually offer a negative number for dividend. You can't actually ask your shareholders to please give you money because you're losing money. There is no such thing as a negative dividend. But otherwise, if they were doing better, they could change that number too. That's most of the advice that I have. Based on what I was able to change for Group H, I would go back and I would make some more changes with your product because you're still losing money after all of the things we did. But since this is a practice round, all you have to do is just wait until Thursday night, and it'll all go back to, it'll all be just a bad dream. Yes, Jose. Yes, so last sort of announcement for everybody before we call it a day. Thursday at 11:59 p.m., the game will reset all the numbers. So if you want to learn from your practice round, make sure you print out your practice decisions and your practice results before Thursday at midnight. Otherwise, the numbers will be gone.
Wait, I thought you could go back.
Huh?
I thought you could go back and use them.
The game resets. Every other year, you can go back and look. But this year, this is a practice round, so the game doesn't make any distinction between the game doesn't save your practice round for the game. So it just resets the entire game. So this round, if you want to know what you did last time, you have to print it out. And that's it. I got the attendance because I got the sheet here, so we're good.
That's what we said tonight. It's going to be due Sunday.
What's that? Oh, I forgot this is Thursday. Yeah, I forgot this is Thursday instead of Tuesday. That's tonight. I almost forgot, today is Thursday, not Tuesday. Yes, go ahead.
It's due this
Yes.
Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't really go in and make any new decisions until tomorrow morning, because otherwise the game will just delete whatever you did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, again, everybody, that was a good question. Everybody, do not go in and make any changes to your decisions right now, because the game will just delete your changes if you do it before midnight tonight. Midnight tonight, everything resets. So as a group, after midnight, so tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, you can go in and make your new decisions. Going forward, you can make the decisions anytime after Sunday for the following week. But this week, because we have the reset, don't do anything until tomorrow morning, okay? Yes. Uh-huh. The cover letter? One page. Yeah. No problem. I'll take them. As long as you type this in, my friend is going to send me a list of all the numbers. But if you print it out, I keep it as like extra proof.
Okay, thank you. Do you want our names on them? Because I don't think we even have a name.
Yeah, if the I got the number here, so I don't need Lorena's name. But yeah, go ahead and put it on there so I know who it was from.
So if after tonight, if I'm online by myself and I save my changes, will it change for everyone else?
As long as they're not online at the same time as you.
Right. So right now, if I
So if you went in at midnight 30 or 1 o'clock in the morning and you made new decisions, and then the rest of your team wakes up tomorrow morning, they'll see the new numbers that you typed in.
So on their side.
Yeah, but if they're logged in at the same time, then they still see the old numbers. Well, you have to if you're in collaboration mode. If you see that somebody else is online from your team, just make sure to click that little double arrow thing, and then it's no problem. Yep.
Right, but because we were trying to do it where okay, you're my team, you make whatever changes you want, and see which outcome is better between me and you, and then we'll choose. That's what we are trying to do. So like we're delegating like different.
No, I get it. I get it. I don't know how to do that right now, but basically.
It's not like individualized. It's like,
no, but basically, once you make changes, your teammates can try to improve on those. Hopefully, whatever changes you made didn't make it worse; they made it better. So then, your teammates are just adding on top of that. So no, unfortunately, it goes in sequence.
okay. All right.
I mean, you could if you just remember
Yeah,
what all your numbers were from the last time, then they can go back and reset them. But yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Next week, email about the assignment one. The cover letter, is that based on Globus, or is
No.
that based on our company?
The cover letter is for whatever company you're interested in applying for.
Oh.
This is an individualized assignment.
Okay.
So wherever you're looking at working in the future, write up a cover letter for them
Okay.
and email it as an attachment to me.
The site shows how to open.
Huh?
The site
Yeah, the links show how to do that.
I just wasn't sure which
Yeah.
one you wanted. Also,
I'm listening. I'm just gonna finish this while we're talking.
You can see my name on there.
Say again?
I said I was on there right now.